I don't have the flag of Kazakhstan, so this will have to do. I mean, it's got a sun. It's missing the eagle, but if there's one thing fans of the Eurovision Song Contest love more than anything, it's getting as many countries to participate as possible. As Europe gradually filled up with more and more countries making their debuts, eyes quickly diverted themselves elsewhere, and so we find ourselves looking eastwards, towards Kazakhstan.
Welcome to Kazakhstan.
Relatively recently, Kazakhstan has announced that it intends to debut in the 2026 edition, and talks will be held with the EBU over whether to grant them an invitation to do so. This is the same method Australia used to get in and stay for 10 years after all. So how did we get here, and why does this feel all too familiar? Let's dive into Kazakhstan's long journey to join Eurovision. Kazakhstan has been striving to join Eurovision for a long time. They first expressed interest in joining the contest in 2007, and as of 2008, broadcaster K1 was awaiting approval for their application to join the European Broadcasting Union, or EBU for short, as an associate member. Full membership in this organisation is a prerequisite to join Eurovision. Few things stood in the way, however. As per the EBU's membership requirements, membership is for broadcasting organisations whose countries are within the European Broadcasting Area as defined by the International Telecommunication Union, or are members of the Council of Europe. In theory, this shouldn't have been a problem for Kazakhstan. 5% of Kazakhstan's land area is located within Europe, which doesn't sound like much, but this is a larger proportion than Turkey's 3%, and the sheer size of that area, about 148,000 square kilometers, means that Kazakhstan would be the 14th largest country in Europe with that part alone. This is more than Greece and Bulgaria, for example, and more than triple the size of the Netherlands. But the European Broadcasting Area does not follow the generally recognised boundaries of Europe, but an arbitrary set of lines that roughly correspond to Europe. Remind you of anything? So in reality, it looks more like this. As you can see, this does not capture Kazakhstan at all, and until 2007, none of the Caucasus countries fell under this area, having to be explicitly included. Heck, it barely catches all of Ukraine. It does, however, include the Levant and North Africa, which has allowed Morocco and the apartheid state to participate and facilitated Tunisia and Lebanon's failed debuts. Despite all this, Kazakhstan remains the only European country not to fall within the European Broadcasting Area. As such, full membership was impossible, and their application to join the EBU stalled. Kazakhstan eventually did get some luck, with Turkey absolutely losing their marbles after Eurovision 2012 for some reason and quitting the contest. They decided to start their own contest, Turkvision. Now, this is a whole fever dream that I'd love to dive into someday soon, but essentially this was Eurovision for Turkic countries and regions with songs in Turkic languages. Also, Serbia and Bosnia for some reason. In 2013, the first edition kicked off in Eskişehir, and Kazakhstan was clearly in it to win it. You have to realise that the quality of Turkvision was low. The bar was set in hell. Kazakhstan, with their song Birlik bin Alda, I hope I didn't butcher that too badly, came a very respectable 9th place, although they easily could have won the entire thing if the runner-up of their national selection was sent instead. This song went triple platinum in the Eurovision fandom, and perhaps more importantly, Keshu, who had already been a girl group in several forms for 9 years at this point, had what Kazakh Wikipedia calls their golden years. This particular iteration would barely last a year before Jana Dugadova broke off and started her solo career. And wouldn't you know it, we had Kazakhstan's 2014 entry for Turkvision to be held in Kazan. Once again, this went triple platinum in the Eurovision fandom, but this time Izinkoven's masterpiece status was more solidified. She came third in the semi-final and absolutely swept the final, winning Turkvision by the largest margin the contest had ever seen. Next year in Astana? Yeah, no, that's not how that works. We're off to Istanbul for 2015. Just like 2013, Kazakhstan was making the most of its Q-pop music industry boom and sent another boy band to Turkey, Orda, with their song Olay MS. They did extremely well, yet again, coming in second place behind Kyrgyzstan. Yes, the vocals were horrendous, the bar is in hell when it comes to song quality at Turkvision. By this point, their success was clear, and with EBU associate member Australia having been gifted a special invitation to perform at Eurovision, many believed it was finally time for Kazakhstan to make its mark on the contest. Domestically, Kazakh music was at its peak around this period. Here are a couple of my favourite Q-pop songs from back then.
Kazakhstan, elimiz şarkılardı. Ayala meni, aymalaşı meni. Do you wanna kiss you?
Unfortunately, the 2016 edition of Turkvision was cancelled due to the Istanbul bombings, which coincidentally was the planned host city again. The 2017 edition was initially planned to be held in Kazakhstan, but that fell through as well. Ultimately, that was basically the end for Turkvision. I'm just going to pretend that the 2020 edition didn't happen because Turkvision has not returned since, and Kazakhstan was absolutely abysmal that year. That performance had worse acoustics than my bedroom right now, and none of these four walls are soundproof. Luckily, the 2016 cancellation wasn't all bad news, as the universe had something else in store for Kazakhstan. On the 1st of January 2016, it was announced that the Khabar agency had gained EBU associate membership, the first and still the only broadcaster in the country to manage this. Prior to this, they had broadcast Eurovision for the first time in 2013, doing so again in 2014, but curiously not in 2015. This accession was after the deadline to apply for the 2016 edition of the contest, so they ultimately did not make a debut. 2017 was a different story. That said, they were still only an associate member. Full membership is a requirement to enter the contest, and the only associate member to ever enter did so on an invitation, that being Australia. So Kazakhstan would have to hold out hope for the reference group to do the same for them. Alas, this was not the case, and Kazakhstan did not appear on the final list of participants for Eurovision 2017. Okay, third time's the charm, I guess. And Turkvision winner Jana Dugalova expressed interest in representing Kazakhstan in 2018. No invitation given, no participation. In December 2017, the Khabar agency set its sights on Eurovision 2019, but this ultimately didn't materialize either. Although, Kazakhstan's stagnation at Eurovision was not all doom and gloom, as opportunity would open up for them in 2018. On the 25th of July 2018, it was announced that, after having received an invitation from the Junior Eurovision Reference Group, Kazakhstan would finally make its debut later that year at the Junior Eurovision Song Contest, a spin-off where the participants must be aged between 9 and 14. 2 months later, on the 22nd of September, 10 songs were put face-to-face in a national selection, with the winner being sent to Minsk that November. In the end, Kazakhstan selected Danelia Tuleshova with her song Özine Sen. It was clear Kazakhstan wanted to start off strong, with an excellent debut to showcase that. After all, Danelia did have prior experience, winning the 2017 edition of The Voice Kids Ukraine, at the time the first non-Ukrainian to do so. Which means their final result was a high table finish, a very respectable 6th place. But we're just getting started. Using an internal selection format, their 2019 entrant to the contest in Gliwice was Yerjan Maxim, with the song Armani'dan Kalma, another ballad which had worked well enough last year, I suppose. Although we knew nothing about him beforehand, he turned out to be an excellent vocalist and swept the juries, coming in 1st place. However, a subpar televote placement of 5th, combined with Poland's suspicious televote landslide, meant Kazakhstan claimed the silver medal, so to speak. I can do a whole other video on the JESC televote system, so I'm just going to let that simmer for now. Now, 2020. Unlike its adult counterpart, this edition was not cancelled and went ahead with special COVID precautions in place in Warsaw. Kazakhstan reverted back to a national final format, and amongst 24 submitted artists and 12 final songs, they chose Karakat Bashanova and her song Forever. There's Quite a correlation here. Kazakhstan really got into the habit of sending ballads. That said, despite my usual opinions on ballads, they were really well executed, and once again, the results seem to agree with that. Kazakhstan came second in the juries behind France, third in the televote behind France and Spain, and second overall behind France. Ultimately, it was a beautiful song sung by an excellent vocalist, and the high position was fully deserved. Kazakhstan got within striking distance twice in a row, so hopes were set very high for 2021. The circumstances behind that entry were rather funny. The national selection was held, and the jury percentage and televote percentages aligned in such a way that both boys got 30.5% overall, and both won. The decision was made to just send both Ali Nur Khamjin and Beknur Shanidepuli, using Ali Nur's national selection song Ertegi Alemi, since it won the jury vote, and Beknur's had in fact come dead last, winning the televote instead. Another beautiful ballad, another left side finish for Kazakhstan. Alas, this was their worst result at the time, only coming in 8th place. Nevertheless, an excellent finish all in all. Kazakhstan went with a sort of hybrid internal selection in 2022, eventually selecting David Charlin through the contest Batıtı Bala, sending the song Jerana, meaning Mother Earth. Another ballad, this time with a more poignant, powerful ending, full of energy. I really liked this before the show. The performance was executed flawlessly, but something went wrong in Yerevan. Kazakhstan finished 15th out of 16 participants, barely ahead of Malta, mysteriously coming dead last in the juries with 5 points, and receiving by far their worst result in the contest to date. As if things couldn't get worse, despite broadcasting the 2023 edition, Kazakhstan did not participate that year, and they have not returned since. During this time, mainly after COVID, Kazakh music experienced a rather notable decline. Q-pop groups such as Juzim and Ayumi were disbanding, falling apart, and Keshu had metamorphosed so many times that the caterpillar became a fully grown elephant. A prominent Kazakh music channel, Gaku TV, was shifting its marketing more towards Russian audiences, and the unique magic of Kazakhstan was starting to become lost in the sea of modernity. What Gaku TV had once done so well was seamlessly combine Kazakh tradition with modern pop, and with one of these elements falling into decline, so did the industry as a whole. Not monetarily though. The rise of Imanbek, social media virality, and consumption from the much larger Russian audience was doing wonders for streaming figures, and the Kazakh music industry's pockets as a result. The 2022 protests were the final nail in the coffin though, with arguably Kazakhstan's most famous singer, Dimash Kudaibergen, having his Instagram account mysteriously taken down along with its 3 million followers for speaking out against the government. Coincidentally, the year after the 2022 protests was the year that Kazakhstan disappeared from Junior Eurovision, withdrawing in 2023 with hopes of returning the next year. This did not materialize, mainly due to financial constraints, and to further add on to that, they didn't even broadcast the contest due to a later start time of 6 p.m. Central European time, which would have meant a 9 p.m. start in Kazakhstan. They will also not be participating at Junior Eurovision 2025 next month. Turning our eyes back to adult Eurovision, Kazakhstan had always been interested in receiving that invitation needed to debut in the contest, but interest fizzled out after their Junior Eurovision withdrawals and 7 consecutive years of firm no's. Instead, we turn our eyes to the broadcasting of Eurovision in Kazakhstan. As we covered earlier, their first broadcast was the 2013 edition, followed by 2014, skipping 2015 to broadcast again in 2016 after they received their associate EBU membership. Haber Agency continued broadcasting every single year after that until 2022, when they were scheduled to broadcast the contest but cancelled it due to low viewing figures, and 2023, which they missed due to the rising cost of Eurovision, which was a strong theme that year, with 3 other countries withdrawing over the rise in participation fees. Alongside no longer participating in the Junior Eurovision, Kazakhstan has not broadcast the Eurovision Song Contest since 2021. It seemed like all interest had fizzled out, as that after so many years and a more dire financial situation, we had to accept that the EBU was not going to grant the invitation to the Haber Agency to compete, nor would they grant them full membership. It seemed like it was over for Kazakhstan's hopes of debuting. On On the 8th of July 2025, chairman of the board of the Khabar agency, Kemalbek Oyshabayev, published an Instagram post outlining his visit to the BBC headquarters to celebrate the British Air Force. This was the post in which he casually dropped that he took part in the General Assembly of the EBU, and that the issue of Kazakhstan at the Eurovision Song Contest would be brought up at their next meeting, as stated by CEO Noel Curran. This is most likely referring to the next general meeting in December, when quite a lot of countries are going to be deciding their participation, not just Kazakhstan. I don't want to bring up the apartheid state in every damn video, but if we had that vote in November instead of cancelling it after a ceasefire announcement that got broken within 2 days, there'd be a lot more room to discuss Kazakhstan in December. Regardless, this has reignited hopes of Kazakhstan finally debuting in the Eurovision Song Contest. But how likely is that to actually happen, really? The simple answer is that we just don't know yet. We'll have to wait until December.
Boo! Give us actual advice!
I'm being cautiously optimistic, but not holding out too much hope given how I've been disappointed in the past. Let's break down the points in favour and against Kazakhstan and the Khabar agency. First off, on a positive note, which in all honesty is more neutral than anything, the confirmation deadline was extended by the EBU to mid-December, which was mostly set to allow countries to withdraw over the apartheid state without incurring a late withdrawal penalty. However, since the December meeting will also be used to discuss an invitation for Kazakhstan, this allows for extra time to get organised and make their case. Next up, 3 countries have already confirmed their return this year. Moldova was fully expected since, despite their financial issues, their 2025 withdrawal was never intended to be more than a one-off break. Romania and Bulgaria, on the other hand, announced a day apart from each other, are shocks. Bulgaria withdrew in 2023 due to insufficient funds and rising participation fees, making their return in another expensive edition a little strange. Romania rage quit in 2024 after throwing themselves under the bus by rigging the votes in 2022, traumatizing their artist in 2023 and receiving no points whatsoever, even from their huge diaspora, and they weren't exactly in a good spot financially either. The sudden return of these 3 countries all at once raises the theory that participation fees have been reduced substantially, and even North Macedonia still hasn't officially confirmed their non-participation. This brings me on to my second positive, that Kazakhstan can actually afford Eurovision this year. Kazakhstan isn't exactly the richest country, and if the theory turns out to be true, this would be a godsend for the Khabar agency. The third positive is a little more unfortunate. If the elephant in the room ends up staying, we will lose a minimum of 4 countries, including the 5th and 6th largest financial contributors to the contest. First off, the EBU wants as much participation money as it can get its hands on. Secondly, if semi-finals are going to be held, they have been scheduled after all, the EBU will want as many countries as possible to fill the spaces left behind. This incentivizes them to invite Kazakhstan as a means of using up spots otherwise unoccupied. Not so much a point in its favour as a side note that I want to touch on, Spain is part of the boycott club. If we lose them, the Big 5 system will drop to Big 4 and we will have an uneven split of countries voting in each semi. Although I feel they'll most likely keep it that way, like they did in 2022 when Italy hosted, there is a slim possibility that that spot will be given to an invitee. After all, that is essentially what happened with Australia for their 2015 debut. Why not Kazakhstan? Despite all of this, there are some unfortunate circumstances holding them back. Firstly, money. Sure, the participation fees may have gone down, but it's entirely possible that the returnees found the funds for themselves. Rumour has it that the Bulgarian broadcaster consulted the government over the Israel vote, and they gave them funds to return to Eurovision because they didn't quite understand how the EBU works and assumed Eurovision participation was necessary to vote. I don't quite believe that theory, but it would explain their sudden ability to return. I doubt the Kazakh government would be willing to help fund Khabar agency's participation. Besides, if they struggle to afford junior Eurovision participation, adult Eurovision is a much bigger expense, and their beautiful JESC stagings may not be as easy to replicate on a larger stage. Secondly, they're still just an associate member and not fully reliant on an invite from the EBU to take part in Eurovision. This really limits their ability to debut of their own will. In addition to this, if the Canada thing materializes, the EBU follows the money, and there is one option that is clearly more attractive than the other. Thirdly, time zones. Kazakhstan is quite far east, 1 hour ahead of Azerbaijan, where Eurovision already starts at 11 PM. A midnight start and a potential sunrise finish is bound to affect viewing figures, even if their debut prompts interest amongst the general population. Add on to that the potential of semi-final participation and a 2 or 3 a.m. finish on a work night, and it doesn't look great for Kazakhstan. They previously stopped broadcasting in 2022 over very low viewing figures, and I'm skeptical as to whether a debut would provoke enough domestic interest to improve that substantially. It's really quite hard to balance the factors in favour of a debut with the challenges Kazakhstan faces in trying to achieve it. I feel it's possible, but the issue will mainly get sidetracked for the elephant in the room. Yes, it will finally get addressed next month at long last. Nevertheless, Romania and Bulgaria made their mysterious returns, and Canada randomly allocated some budget to Eurovision, so anything is possible. If Canada debuts before Kazakhstan, though, I'm going to the EBU headquarters and flipping some tables. Thank you so much for watching. I'm still pretty new to the whole Eurovision YouTube scene, so if you wouldn't mind dropping a like and subscribe, that would be much appreciated. Please let me know your thoughts and theories in the comments section. I'd love to hear what you all think about Kazakhstan at Eurovision. See you next video. Here's the outro. I don't know how to outro. Ali Nur Khan. Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm going to struggle to say these names. Confirmation deadline. Jesus Christ, what a long sentence I've written. What a long nose you have. Armanin Keep. Oh, jeez. Fucking finally.